Hey, hi Nicole. Welcome to the Creative Operations podcast by Artwork Flow. I would, love for you to introduce yourself, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Nicole D'Anna Long. I am the Director of Creative Services for the Elizabeth Arden brand under Revlon. So basically, we have an internal creative agency at Revlon, and we staff a team of art directors, copywriters, graphic designers. We do production and post production. So we have a fully staffed team to take care of all of our creative from conception all the way through delivery.
So, Nicole, could you describe what creative services entail, especially in a giant brand like Revlon that, most females on earth would be aware of for our listeners who might not be
Yeah.
familiar with the term? Like, just break down your day to day. What is the job
Yeah,
like?
no problem. So we do 360 campaigns, which basically means that we take care of, everything that has to do with the advertising, any kind of consumer facing assets. So when you go into a store, and you see things at point of sale, anything that's online, any of their video, social media, we handle all of that. And we do that when I say from conception all the way through delivery. So that means, we have a team of art directors who are actually brainstorming all of the creative along with the global marketing team. And then we work with the marketing team to produce. So we actually do all of the shoots. Like I said, we have copywriters and graphic designers who create the assets based on what we shoot. And then, we have a production team who does all of the planning, managing of the shoots. We have a post production team who does all of the retouching. And then we even have like a mechanical production team, which they kind of translate the assets and they deliver them to all of the different markets throughout the globe since we're a global company. So that is what we're doing day to day. It's a lot, and we're a small team. So for the scale of what we do, we're handling a bunch of projects at a time. So yeah, we get a lot done.
Great. I mean, that's a lot of, different you have so many different
Yeah,
kind of media that you're handling in your portfolio, and it's a like a variety of different kind of like assets, different briefs, different
yeah.
tonality that has to go into the brand. So that sounds definitely like you have a lot on your plate. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about how do you get this work done? Like, do you have a big team in house? Do you have a lot of agencies? And like, how do you like manage
Yeah.
this entire shebang?
So we do a majority of our work in-house. There are a lot of things that we are incapable of doing in-house just because we don't have the resources, because we are working at such a large scale. So, for instance, we have, an in-house video team, but they aren't able to handle all of the work that we have. So then we have to also get like an out-of-house video editing team to help us do some of the work. Um, but really, we try to do as much as we can in house. There are occasions that the global marketing team will want to get their like biggest launch of the year done with an external agency. So we will still continue to work with the agency and with marketing, just in developing the concepts and things like that. But like I said, mainly we're doing everything in house, and the team
Okay.
is small. It's not very big. I mean, there's, I would say, less than 30 of us, doing all of the things that I described. So it's, we have a team of freelancers and it's everybody multitasks and does a lot of work. So, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's with creative, it's very common for the teams to be majority freelance. That's what I've
Right.
come across. And, what we have to do is just source as needed. So, with our team, we really like for the freelancers to be part of our team.
Hmm.
So I don't hire people for short term things. It's
Hmm.
always basically I know that I have, say a need in graphic design, so I need to bring
Hmm.
another one on for an extended period. So yeah, so we do try and manage as much as we possibly can in house.
I'm assuming that the really nice office with the windows looking to the Hudson really helped with all the creative process.
Oh yeah, you came to the office. Yeah, we just moved into
Oh.
actually a smaller office because We have,
Remote.
a lot of the team is the office that you came to is the smaller office. We're still working. We're only on a hybrid schedule. A lot of the roles in the company are remote, so it's been an adjustment for everybody. But yes, that new office we love.
It was such a experience walking into your office because I've only seen those kind of, glass walled offices in
Yeah.
Netflix, I guess. And then actually, you can look across the Hudson to Brooklyn, and it's a really nice, interesting creative open space.
Yeah, it's a beautiful office. It has, full views of the city. We love that. I think it's something we take for granted probably because we're seeing it every day. But yeah, it's very
Yeah.
nice.
Interesting. So, Nicole, I wanted to understand more. So, you've had like a meteoric rise in Revlon. You started as a senior manager, and now manage the entire,
Mhm.
creative services. You're the director of creative services. So, how have your responsibilities and your vision changed as you climbed this ladder?
When I had come to Revlon initially, I came as like a senior project manager. And at that point, Elizabeth Arden had just been bought by Revlon, and we were
Mhm,
really just trying to get our footing as a creative agency. So it was a lot different than what I'm doing right now. I think it took a lot of time for me and
mhm,
the global marketing team to like establish a lot of the processes that we have in place today. And
mhm,
so, we've gone through a lot of changes. We've gone through different creative directors. And I think, at one point when the last creative director left, it was just me on my
mhm,
own, which was how I ended up moving up to the director level and, ended up managing the whole team. Um,
mhm,
but it has changed a lot. I think when I had first started, my responsibilities were much more basic, obviously, than what they
mhm,
are now. I was kind of managing these like smaller projects and day to day tasks, and we weren't really taking on some of these like bigger launches like we're doing now. And at some point during the pandemic, the general manager that we had at the time kind of wanted us to take as much as possible in house. And
mhm,
she transferred a lot of her external agency budget in house so that we could grow the team at Red House, is the name of the agency, so that we could
mhm,
grow the team at Red House. And I think since then it's been really great because whereas before I was doing more day to day management of smaller projects, now, I have a project manager who works under me. We've kind
mhm,
of made all of the processes so that people can work independently. And in that way, we've been able to scale up. And so,
mhm.
now we're doing between 20 and 30 launches a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and also managing all of those things that I described to you, all of the translations and things like that for all of the other global regions and the retailers.
Hmm.
So it's really just it keeps growing, which is great. Elizabeth Arden does quite well. So it's always, I think, with creative operations. Um, I feel like my main job here has always been to just kind of look at what the environment is and what the needs are of the team and just adjust constantly. So I'm always looking for ways to really like make everything just much more streamlined. Save everybody time, save people money, save everybody's energy, make things easier for us and for all of the partners that we're working with as well. So that is like what my day to day is right now, is kind of just evolving process, I feel like.
Yeah. So talking about processes,
Mhm.
Nicole, any particular like tools or technologies or processes that has been like completely groundbreaking for you, that has really like helped you up, like reach some level of efficiency in your teams, in your processes? What is it that you would say was that for you, like that helped you scale up your vertical and your teams massively? Anything like that?
Um, so I think it's hard. We've had this conversation many times. It's difficult for me to find kind of a platform that encompasses everything that I feel like I need for my team. So I use a lot of
Hmm.
different things, which is unfortunate. Um, But, we use, I think before we were using Basecamp, I felt like Basecamp is always like a nice platform to use. For me, for planning, I love to do things in like a Gantt format when I'm creating timelines. So that's something that
Mm,
I always use. Um,
mm,
I've never really been able to find something that,
mm,
had all of the things that I need, because I like, because process wise, I would love for us to be able to do, upload our concepting documents, to have all of our timelines, to have,
mm,
be able to communicate with marketing,
mm,
to have time tracking, to have everything in a single place. And
mm.
so it's very hard to find that. So no, to me, I have not been able to find anything yet that has been groundbreaking like that. Obviously, our workflow
Mm.
has been the closest to what I need. So um,
We are trying, Nicole. We are trying
we're
really
all
hard. One
trying.
day, hopefully, we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It's
so
interesting.
that is challenging for me, and that's something that I also
Mm,
do. I meet with people regularly, and I'm always looking for different platforms that I feel could help us make
mm.
things easier make our lives
Interesting.
easier. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so in this entire creative process, like getting a product or even just a campaign from conceptualization to actually in the market, there are so many different moving parts in the
So
process and
many. Yeah.
absolute madness.
I mean, I've shared with you some of our final documents. They can be hundreds of pages long, and we're just creating like a guideline for the globe. There's still work to be done after that.
Yeah,
And it often takes us almost a year. So, like
yeah.
a large launch, so what we call like a gold launch, which is a global launch that is, has a lot of
Mm,
assets that we have a high budget for, those can take us about
mm.
like 9 months to do.
Wow.
So it's so much work that goes into it. There's so
Mm,
many like little intricacies and things like that. And so it's difficult to find something that really takes all of that
mm,
into account. And I also think that everybody works differently. So you know, it's hard unless you're having a platform developed specifically for your company. I think there's always going to be like little things missing.
So, Nicole, how do you find the right resource for the right project? Like, how do you organize that bit? Like, does a brief comes to you and then you immediately get someone's name in mind that, okay, this person would be good for this job, or how do you, and
Yeah,
in case you have to find a new resource, like, how do you go about that?
so we have low turnover with our freelancers. So many of them have been with us for years. And
Hmm.
so when I'm getting briefed on a project, I do the planning far in advance. And so I have a list of all the projects that are coming down the pipeline. And because I've been
Hmm.
working with the same company for so long, it's been, 5 years at this point, I'm
Hmm.
aware of what is going to be in the project. I won't know the details about it. I won't know, any of like
Hmm.
the clinical results. I won't know some of, the research that's gone into the project, but I'll know in general what the deliverables
Hmm.
will be. And so within our team, we've built it so that we have, an art director who handles skincare, an art director who
Hmm.
handles promotions, an art director who handles fragrance and color. And then we have one who's kind of like shifts between all of them to cover when some of the
Hmm.
other ones are too busy. So
Hmm.
that's generally how I do it. Same thing with the copywriters. I will have, copywriters who mainly handle skincare, copywriters who mainly handle promotions and fragrance.
Hmm.
And so that's the way that we do it. When I am resourcing new people, we do two things. One is I have, somebody that I work with within Red House who goes out to all of the different agencies. We put together a
Hmm.
job description, a general description of what we need. I don't do it, like I said, on a project by project basis. I do it like on an
Hmm.
overall position basis. Um,
Hmm.
so they will go out to a bunch of different agencies and recruit. But I also like to, I mean, you've probably seen it before. I like to go out on LinkedIn and see if, it gets passed around, and then have people come to
Hmm.
me, and then I will meet with them directly as well. So those are the different ways that I find people. But it's, generally depending on the position, I like to look at people's books and just see if their work is relevant to what we're doing at the current time. Um, I think, like things have drastically shifted to be very digital heavy. recently.
Hmm.
So I'm always mainly looking for people who have a lot of digital experience.
Interesting. And so, any recent project that you would like to share with our listeners that you are incredibly proud of, or was very challenging, but you and your team did it anyway. Anything like that? And I know because I as I shared with you earlier when we met that Elizabeth Arden was a very I have very fond memories because I bought a kit for my mom when it was my
Yeah.
first time in the US in 2015. So I know that there are great campaigns that the brand does. I still have that bag with me, like a little pouch thing. So I'm sure there must be incredible campaigns that you guys have delivered. Anything like that that you would want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. We always hear stories like that. I always hear stories like that from people when I say that I work for Elizabeth Arden, because it seems like it's kind of, like, oh, my mom wore that, or like my grandma wore that perfume or something like that, which I think is really cute. And it's also like, we play up the heritage of the brand very much. So it's nice to
Yeah.
hear that from people. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're very proud of all the work that we've done. I think you can really look at kind of the evolution of the brand and see, like, since I've been involved since about 2000, I guess 2018, it
Mhm.
has really shifted. The last general manager that we had, she really wanted to modernize the brand. So you can see
Mhm.
that in the creative, that things have, much more of like a clean modern aesthetic. I think all of the work that we do is really beautiful. I'm trying to think of one that we've did recently. We work so far in advance. I don't want to talk about anything that has not launched yet. But I think you know, one example is like our capsules, which are like, they're these little single use kind of capsules that have skincare
Mhm.
serums in them, and we do a bunch of
Okay.
launches for them every year. We do like a couple of re-supports, try and get the word out about all of the different ones and all of the different things they
Hmm.
do for the skin. And I think those always come out really beautiful because they have all of these different, pastel color palettes, and the product is really pretty to shoot and things like that. So if you look up like targeted solutions, that we love doing those big skincare projects.
I'm gonna look up that
Yeah,
campaign,
look it up.
that particular product.
Yeah.
Great. So, Nicole, you were at Elf Cosmetics and now you're
Mhm.
at Revlon. So, any differences in terms of approaches when it in the context of creative and brand operations
Yeah.
that you've noticed? How are companies and brands different when it comes to creative operations in the cosmetic space?
Yeah, I think so. I was only at Elf for about a year before I came to Revlon, but
Hmm.
it was an amazing experience working there. It was similar to Revlon. They had just opened this New York creative office, and so they were kind of
Hmm.
building up their creative team. But I think I definitely see the differences between what I was doing there and what I do here, because, it's the consumer, the demographic of the consumer has a lot to do with the creative that gets done. So Elf has a
Hmm.
lower price point. Their demographic is very young, so the creative is very young, and they are very digital based.
Hmm.
Even though they have a large presence in stores, I think when I was there, I found that most of the things that we did were digital. Whereas with Elizabeth Arden at Revlon, they are luxury, and so they have a much higher price point and an older consumer. So it's like the difference
Hmm.
between a teenage consumer and somebody who's in their 30s.
Hmm.
And so they were more point of sale based.
Hmm.
But now it's definitely shifting to digital.
Hmm.
We do much more video and things like that. But yeah, it was an adjustment to come to Revlon, and see how much print we actually did and how much the business was done in store. I wasn't used to that at all.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think, we do a lot of travel retail. That's never going to go away. The assets that are in airports and things like that. Um, and I think in kind of some of the Asian countries, they have really big in-store presence. They do a lot of pop-ups and things like that.
Hmm.
So like I said, I don't think that stuff will ever go away, but definitely the difference was just, the younger, more digital based consumer versus the older consumer. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's sort of interesting that, when the consumer is more young and you're targeting a lower price point, the large part of creative ops will be, around digital,
yeah,
whereas,
social
print,
media. Yeah,
absolutely. And whereas, print, danglers, pop-ups, stores, events, that's a like a
yeah.
whole other, gamut by itself. And like two universes are so completely different.
Yeah, very much so. It's challenging, and it's also, I mean, it's challenging from an operations perspective because
Hmm.
print needs to be done in a specific way. It needs to be shot
Yeah.
in a specific way with specific cameras. It needs to be retouched with people who are familiar with retouching print because it's so much,
Hmm.
it ends up being so much bigger. You know, a lot of the stuff that we shoot can go on a billboard and things like that versus little tiny screen that the image only needs to be that big. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like I said, it was a
Yeah.
learning experience to understand the
And then there's so much post processing, like you have the color separation, and then you need to configure the machines, and then talk to the printer. Like a whole other.
absolutely, yeah, a lot of proofing, and we still have issues with proofing. I think it's the team, we're all
Hmm.
quite similar in age, and so a lot of us are learning together. I think with graphic design, they need to do print in a specific way with certain dye lines and things like that. Um, so yeah, it's proofing, match prints, doing things in a very specific way so that they look good in the light boxes and there aren't light flares that wash things out.
Yeah.
It's all different. Yeah.
So, Nicole, that brings me to my next question. Like, at a brand like Elizabeth
Mm.
Arden, right? Like, what does a brand consistency actually mean? Like, and how do you implement it? Like, how do you make sure that the experience that a customer in US versus someone in Asia, they get a very similar feel of the brand? Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, it's actually a big struggle. So what we do you know, my team does is we create what we call a toolkit, which is standard guidelines for a launch globally.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have all of the different regions from the world come to us and they're like, hey, I need this for, this retailer, and I need this for this website, and I need this, for this pop up we're doing or whatever. And then we have to kind of take what we've created for the global guidelines and we have to make sure that it fits within what their retailers are asking for, what the ask is for, where the placement is, and make sure that it still stays on brand. And it's a struggle every single day. Some teams have designers that are directly in their countries and their regions, and we just would send over the artwork and they would do it themselves, but then it's inconsistent, and consistency is like a huge thing that we're working on right now with the brand. So we've been doing a lot of work, and we've been doing this since I started here. We created brand guidelines in 2021, which basically it was like, this is what the logo needs to look like everywhere. This is what the font colors need to be. This is what the text needs to be, the hierarchy of all the text. And so we really try to follow that within all of our designs for everything. Even when we're translating things to other languages, we still try to follow all of those guidelines. But like I said, it can be difficult because what is popular in Asia and what
Yeah.
things need to look like in, say, China specifically. It's not necessarily what's going to be popular in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, there are different trends all over. They want models who look different. They want creative that's different. They want different types of colors. If there's some kind of like a promotion, like say holiday or Black Friday or something like that, they want things to look a certain
Yeah.
way. So we are always working with the teams around the world to try and find something that will fit their needs and staying on brand, trying to stay on
Yeah.
brand
So it
so that things are recognizable because it's difficult. We noticed coming in that we look different in a lot of places, so we've been trying to change that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tricky balancing that thin line between having brand consistency and being culturally appropriate and attractive.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
definitely. It's hard.
yes. So, given the rapid changes in consumer behavior, especially, with all the digital products
Mhm.
evolving and consumers being online all the time, so all the digital boost, how do you foresee the future of creative operations in the context of cosmetics industry?
I mean, it's really wild with cosmetics because you would think that they would kind of not shift completely digital
Hmm.
because people want to see things in person, they want to see colors in person, they want to see how something feels on their skin, but it does seem like everything is shifting very heavily digital. And so, I mean, I've noticed that we've been very video heavy
Hmm.
recently. Everybody wants video, video, video. I think it's like, with TikTok,
Hmm.
there is short form video, and that's like what's really popular, and like Instagram Reels. And I think people really like seeing the more realistic side of like
Hmm.
people trying things on rather than these like very forced models, and like
Hmm.
are what you would think of a typical commercial format.
Hmm.
So that's how I see things continuing to evolve based on just, what I've heard from the teams that we work with. Um, I think it's going to continue to skew in that direction, more video,
Video.
more digital.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Nicole, that brings us to the end of our conversation, and it was a wonderful chat. I just have like these three
Yeah.
very, rapid fire questions, fun questions. I'll throw them.
Okay.
So, Nicole, if you were a book, what would be the title of your book?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I don't know. Um, I think this is a joke with my team, but I think the title of my book would be "Per My Last Email" because I feel like I am always having to say things over and over. Per my last email, that's what it would be.
I think I'm going to have my team make a meme on it, and you will,
Yeah,
feature in that meme. uh,
yeah.
nice, nice one. And what's your favorite holiday destination?
My favorite holiday destination. Oh, that's difficult too. I love Europe. My husband is from Europe and he's taken me all around. So I think France is my favorite place that I've gone to. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what is that one task at work that really bugs you and you really want something to automate it forever?
Oh my goodness. I think it's time tracking because we do reports, because we work on so many different projects at the same time and have to bill so many people back,
Hmm.
that we have to do time tracking. And because I work on so many different projects, it's just a constant like, oh, an hour there, an hour there, an hour there. So I would love somebody to automatically be looking at my computer and doing it for me on my own instead of me having to track my own time.
Interesting. Great. So that
Yeah.
brings us to the end of the conversation, Nicole. Thank you for taking out the time. And I always, enjoy our conversations a lot. And
Yes, me
thank you
too.
so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.